Welcome to PRAJNA SPARKS special series 59 Days of Healing, where we explore one maxim from the Tibetan Lojong text, 7 points for healing dualistic mind, each day to integrate the practice into our lives. Today is day 26. We are in point 6, Healing Promises. Maxim 26 reads, Mind your own business. Yeah, this is one of the examples of these maxims being very common sense. It also makes you go, because this text is more than 1,000 years old, and we still need to be told to mind our own business. This is not saying not to care about others, not to check in on people, especially if they're alone or depressed or needing care. What it's saying is, how much time do you want to spend obsessing about what's going on in somebody else's life, or worse, their mind? We really don't know what's happening for others. This maxim is saying we spend an incredible amount of emotional energy just speculating about why this or that happened, what somebody's thinking about, spinning out all kinds of stories and getting very entangled in dramas of our own creation. If there's a communication breakdown with somebody we care about, if somebody's ghosting us, if there's something to be addressed, assertive ways of working with that are nonviolent and healthy are a much better use of our time. In addition, we can also use that time and energy that we spend spinning out and wondering, almost spying on people's inner space for our own spiritual practice, our own healing, our own development of the habit of finding joy, solace, and warmth in our interconnection with others, rather than more food for dualistic mind to bounce around between all its good, bad, black, white, victim, hero, right, wrong kinds of ping pongs. Like many of the other maxims in points 6 and 7, this one's very straight to the point. It's something we know doesn't serve us, often harms us, and 1,000 years later, we still need to hear it.
Indeed, we spend lots of time paying attention to what other people are up to. And we have more and more ways of doing that now, it seems, with social media and whatnot. I'm curious what you think about how we can have, is there a way to have a healthy relationship with those kinds of social media representations of other people's lives?
If you want to take a Buddhist angle on it, first of all, watch our own emotional reactivity. If someone's posting about their wonderful life, what does that create in our mind? What do those conditions spark for us? Is it jealousy? Is it a sense of loss, of sadness, of rivalry? What's going on there? It's helpful because that actually allows us to turn inward and do something healing and proactive for us, rather than to get very reactive around a very slim, self-selected set of activities that somebody else is posting in their social media. That's one possibility. We want to do something that's actually beneficial for us. It might also be that it can help us to look at our own speech. Social media is a very elaborate form of speech. And of course, the Buddha has a lot to say about speech. Right speech is one of the branches of the Eightfold Path that the Buddha lays out. So we can say to ourselves, what does this teach me about how I present on social media? How can I be more aligned with my aspirations? How can I take joy in speaking with integrity, having that sense of being grounded in our word? There's many, many different ways of working with that.
And I understand why you don't want to sort of spin out tales of other people's motivations and if we think that they're doing something negative. What about sort of attributing positive motivations to people? How does that fit into this idea of minding your own business?
This is an everyday English rendering of this maxim. It's not literal. The literal one is something like don't obsess over other circumstances. So when we look at those two together, and I recommend to everybody to look at several translations of the maxims or pretty much any other Buddhist text that you're working with, because different translations will give you a sense of the original when you don't know the language. But when you look at those two together, you have a better idea of what's going on here. It's not saying don't care about anybody, don't celebrate people, don't rejoice in people's wonderful activities. Don't go out of your way to cast behavior in a positive light if that's helpful for you. Those are all good things to do. And this maxim is not saying not to do that. What it's directed at is what we all know when we say something like mind your own business. Don't be snoopy. Don't be nosy. Don't spend your time creating things out of nothing. If it's actually something that's beneficial, that helps you to see someone in a positive light or helps you to have joy in other people's behavior, this maxim isn't discouraging that.
So I think that that is really helpful in terms of focusing on ourselves and our own development and not getting so focused on sort of what's going on for other people, especially attributing negative things to them. I'm always curious about how people might be different from each other in terms of how much they feel comfortable sharing, how much they feel comfortable with other people inquiring about their lives. And so I understand the minding your own business, that it's talking about something specific there, but I'm just wondering if you've got any insights or guidance about how we can express that caring. And you said, it's okay to check in on people if they're upset or they're needing care. How do we sort of manage that boundary between the checking in and the getting too maybe intrusive into somebody else's business?
I think one of the things that this practice teaches us is there are no pat answers. There isn't a formula that we can pull out and have handy for these situations. What it teaches us is to be very responsive to the particular causes and conditions. Some people are more private than others. And also, the very same person might be more private in certain areas than in other areas. There are no guidelines that work in every circumstance. What does work in every circumstance is that warm, light heart. It's our true solace, and offering our care or concern to somebody out of that space provides a space of solace for them to respond as is best for them. It might be, yes, I need some help, or thank goodness you called, I'm really down, or I'm okay right now, I'll get back to you when I want to talk, or whatever it might be.
So finding ways to touch into something lightly that give people enough space that they can share if they want to, but not sort of cornering them in that way.
Through all these maxims, even these very common sense ones that just seem like they're talking about how to live, they're not just talking about how to live. They're also talking about how to expand our view, our hearts, and cultivate the relative bodhicitta, compassion, love, care, etc., along with ultimate bodhicitta, the emptiness, the true nature of things. They're like two wings on a swan in classical examples. They go together by not being so self-involved in any circumstance. We start to dissolve artificial boundaries and we start to spread those wings of emptiness and compassion.
There's one other way that I notice this comes into play, which is that let's say I'm talking about a challenging situation that I'm having with another person and I'm, getting support from a friend or something. I notice that other people will often go to speculation about what's going on for the other person. I wonder if there are times when that's useful, times when it's not useful, ways that we can think about not just our own speculation, but the extent to which we might be encouraging other people to do that, and when that might be a positive or not such a positive thing.
There are precious few times where it's actually helpful, maybe in therapy where you're processing, or maybe if you're talking to someone who has a close relationship to a third person and is authorized to talk about that situation, is not invading their privacy. Really, most of the time that we're speculating, it doesn't help very much. Even if we've managed to get a little bit right, we seize on that little bit and forget about the whole world that this person is inhabiting, unless it's something that's actually helping us to get out of that pattern. This is the trickiness of dualistic mind. It always has a reason why, oh, but if I did this, it's actually helpful. Oh, but that's okay. But what if I actually was doing it for the good of others? We have to be really careful with circumstances, especially when it comes to things like speculating. We're already making up reality every single second. So adding more make-believe on top of that just makes things denser. That's what we're trying to heal from.
This has been Yeshe and Tanya on day 26 of PRAJNA SPARKS special series, 59 Days of Healing. Tune in daily for more maxims from the Tibetan Lojong text, 7 Points for Healing Dualistic Mind. Check the episode notes for more resources and email us at sparks@prajnafire.com with any questions. May all beings benefit.